This is a topic I don't see many people talking about, and I think it's time we uncover it. My name is Paul Silva, and I help you remember who you are through creativity, reflection, and the art of becoming. This is A Creative Alchemist. On a recent video, someone left a comment that really hit me. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but essentially it read, "Do you have any thoughts on returning to your passion after suffering massive loss and living in grief?" I know I'd like to find joy again in my passion of video editing, as 2 years have passed since my loss, but I still struggle to find my way again. Now, before we dive into this, I just want to start by acknowledging how much courage and honesty it takes to even ask this, especially in a public space. I love when people ask questions because you never know who else needs to hear the same answer or something along the line, something that's going to trigger them. So in some ways, it's an act of service to ask questions. Now, I have to confess something. When I first heard this question, I first read it, I had a moment of doubt, of imposterness, because I haven't had a loved one pass where I felt overwhelming and anguishing grief. So because of that, I felt that I was not qualified to answer. But the reframe here is that we've all grieved someone without them having to have died. We've all had relationships, whether it's a romantic one, a friendship, a business partnership, whatever it is, that has fallen apart or dissolved. And we've grieved that. Some of us have had businesses that have collapsed, dreams that have fallen apart, people maybe going no contact or ghosting us, maybe health that has failed or jobs that have changed. Maybe you have an empty nest or retired. Many of you have suffered loss of faith, loss of safety, or a loss of your old self. These are things that we grieve for. And for me, I can attest that I have lost things. And what comes up for me most is when I got sober. At the time, I didn't realize I was working through grief. I lost a big chunk of my identity, my mindset, the places I went to and the people I hung out with, the actions I took, the way I saw myself and the world, even though they clearly hadn't served me for years. So now let's go back to the question. How do you return to creative passions when you've suffered through loss? That's a big question, and it's a tough one. And I want to share why this can be hard. And then we're going to go into a story that I've told many times, but I think can really help to shift your thinking around loss and grief. And finally, we'll look at how you can create in the aftermath of loss. Creating when in the midst of grief or starting to return to life can almost feel like a luxury or that it's frivolous. And there's a part of us that says, why bother? There's so much more important things in life to take care of. There are greater concepts. Life is precious. What are you doing pissing away doing this stuff? And if you're watching this and that's how you feel, if you're going through this, I just want to say, I see you. And you're not doing it wrong. You're just in the muck, in the muddy middle of a new transition. Often when you're in grief, you're in survival mode. You're lucky to get the basics in, the eating and the bathing, the working, taking care of the kids or the cats. Grief can deactivate the parts of the brain needed for that abstract, playful, and complex creative work. You're too busy using all your mental energy just to function, just to get through the day. It's also emotionally draining. And there's a part of you that may feel numb, anxious, or overwhelmed. And channeling those intense feelings into art or a project, it can feel like opening up a raw wound that you're too tired to tend to. You see, grief just doesn't take what or who we lost. It rearranges everything inside of us like guts and all. It changes how we see, how we feel, how we move through the world. It's like we're in a snow globe that's, being shaken. We're like disoriented. We can't see much further than the avalanche of thoughts and emotions that overwhelm us and cloud us. The version of you that once loved your craft might not exist anymore. And I want to emphasize that that's okay. You're not meant to go back to who you were. You're meant to meet the person who's slowly emerging on the other side of this fire. Sometimes our creativity goes quiet. Not because it's gone, but because it's waiting for that new version of us to arrive. And that person may or may not enjoy the things they once did. There may be a transformation that opens doors to other creative pursuits. Sometimes when we are just rattled to the core, we open our eyes to things that we never considered before. Now, speaking of fire, I want to share about redwoods. I know, redwoods. I've shared this many times before over the years, but this is what came to me when I read the question about returning to creative work after loss. So let's get to that. Now, I know I called this a story earlier on, but it's more like a metaphor. So sue me. This is what you get. So let's talk about the transformation that happens in the forest during and after a fire. Redwoods and sequoias, which I think they're a type of redwood. I don't know. It's not a botany class here. Anyway, they're extraordinary. They don't just survive fire. They actually depend on it. So when a wildfire moves through a redwood forest, the heat does something really cool. It's incredible. It actually cracks open their cones, which are sealed tight, and it releases the seeds that are locked inside. They're just in there chilling. And all of a sudden, whoosh, they're released, they're freed. And in a way, like the fire is an activation of sorts for this seed, for this potential growth. And so without the heat, the seeds don't release. They don't get put into the wild. And that's not just all. The fire also burns away the dead undergrowth under the forest floor and clears space in the canopy as well for sunlight and rainwater to reach the ground again. It's like the fire punches a hole in the forest or something. And the ash left behind kind of enriches the soil with new minerals. And it's the perfect ground for new life to take root. It's bare minimum soil that is perfectly set up for new redwoods to grow. How cool is that? So while on the outside it looks destructive, the fire is actually part of the forest's renewal. It's what allows it to regenerate, to become stronger, clearer, more alive. So you're smart. You probably know where I'm going with this, right? Grief works the same way as that fire. Grief burns through everything we thought was permanent. Our plans, our mindset, our connections, our identities. The stories that maybe we told ourselves about how life was supposed to go. That grief, that loss, it scorches us clean, if you will. It leaves us wondering if anything beautiful can ever grow again. We look at the forest floor and it's bereft of leaves, of plants, the underbrush that underpinned who we were, who we thought we were. And so it's back to bare minimum soil. And that's the soil we need to grow again. So that same fire, the one that took so much, can also open things inside of us that we couldn't have reached in any other way, just like those seeds in the cones. It cracks the heart wide open. It opens up the parts of us that may have been dormant until now. It releases the seeds of empathy, tenderness, and truth that can only grow in that soil that sorrow has laid down. And when, not if, but when, you return to your art, your passions, your new way of being, your new relationships, whatever it is, that you felt you lost, you'll bring that new soil, that new growth with you. The work that comes from that place may be quieter, slower, different, weird feeling, unsightly even, but it'll be deeper. It'll be more rooted in transformation because that's what you're going through. Like when you think of this way, your wildfire, that loss, didn't necessarily destroy your creativity. It's prepared you, or kind of like forged the ground for a truer, deeper kind of art. So I can hear you. Okay, Paul. Okay, creative alchemist. Those are nice. Those story, the redwoods, the trees. Who doesn't like a tree story? That's great. But how do I return to the passions after loss? Okay, we're going to tackle that now. And just a little caveat before we go on. I want to be very clear that what I'm going to share and what, has worked for me or maybe other people may not work for you, and that's okay. That's anything, really, right? Like we offer our thoughts, our stories, ways that have worked for us, and it's not a one-size-fit-all prospect. It's not the exact blueprint that if you follow this precisely, you will get this. It may be different for you. Just take what works for you and leave the rest behind. So just a little thing I want to share. It may feel impossible to pick up that brush or sit in front of the keyboard or lift the bow to your viola, but know this. You don't need a plan necessarily. You just need you and your presence. So how do you start? You start by creating without expectation. No word count, no measurable metrics, no anything. You don't have to make even anything good. You just want to make something that's true. And in doing so, it's probably going to be messy or small. Maybe it's just editing a 10-second clip or one photo. Maybe it's just doing a few bars of a song, or maybe it's just the act of mixing the paint before you even do anything. Maybe it's just throwing clay, doodling. No matter how small or insignificant it may seem, you're starting to claim your space a bit, right? You're declaring to the universe that you're still here. You're still here. And I think doing it that way, coming from that place, you're also letting grief, in a way, sort of co-author your work. So what does that mean? I think the one mistake a lot of people make is that we think that we have to heal before we can create again. But sometimes creating is how we heal. I mean, any creative can tell you this. They work through all the pain. Like let that ache, the silence, the longing, all of it find its way into what you make. It's like a way of honoring what you've been through and what you're currently going through by way of creation. I see it as sort of like a sacred offering, if you will, to your old self and old ways of being. You're starting on that new forest floor, and it can be a bit bewildering and feel weird. But you're starting to find your legs again. You're sprouting your new roots, and that's going to be awkward for a little bit. And I know it may be hard, but remember, be kind to yourself in this process. And it's a process. Oh boy, is it a process. Enjoying your old or new passion or craft. It's not a betrayal to a loved one or whatever it is that you're grieving. It's just a part of healing. And if the old passion or thing that you used to do brings up too many painful memories or emotions, maybe allow yourself to explore new things. Don't be afraid to do that either. Sometimes a clean slate is what can help us move through our pain. So you don't have to be attached that I have to go back to the things I did. Again, new growth, new experiences, new observations, and that might take you down into doing something before I never would have thought of, but here you are. I would also ask yourself, what is it why you loved doing the thing you used to do? Like, what does it touch in you? What does it bring up for you? How does it make you feel? And sometimes tapping into that, it can rekindle that little flame. And not to overextend the fire metaphor, but it can. It can help you shift your attention and viewpoint and get you back into what lit you up before, or maybe what is starting to light you up now. It's just playing around, really. And finally, I would gently suggest following curiosity and not passion. Curiosity is such a powerful thing for creatives. I mean, passion maybe can feel too far away when you're grieving, whereas curiosity can start really small. It can be gentle. It might be just a little flicker of like, what if, you know? It could be a sound that moves you, or an image that stirs something a little faint. Again, just kindling something. You know, in photography, one thing that I was taught and always remember is follow the light. That is, where is the light taking you? And our eyes follow light. We're drawn to it, right? Video game developers use light in subtle and maybe not so subtle ways to draw us to the next goal or place we need to go. If you're playing a game, you're not sure where you're supposed to go, follow the light. They purposely do that. And in so many ways, we all do that. So follow that light. Follow the little ember that leads you back to the fire, right? That sort of forges your goals, your passions, your delights, your way of showing up in the world. You deserve to be in that light. If it's been 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and you're only now feeling the stir to create again, that's okay. Everyone has their timing. The universe has its timing for us. Even the forest, remember, it takes years to regrow after the fire. It's not just clickety-click, barb a trick, it's there. So be kind to yourself. Allow yourself the space to grow and heal, and you will magnetize whatever it is that needs to come to you and fill in that space slowly but surely. As a quick demonstration or aside here, when I got sober, I struggled with what do I do now? Because so much of my time was spent like glug. And I didn't really have any hobbies. I didn't have any, I used to write. That would eventually come about a year, right? Talk about the little ember. That took about a year for me to get back into. In the meantime, though, I had to be open to like, what else can I try? And so I tried things like rock climbing. I tried, I went to events and functions that I normally wouldn't have done. I looked up different hobbies. I got into running, which I'd never done before. My dad used to run, was a runner. And so I started to open myself up into inviting things into my space. If I was drinking still, I would have been like, they weren't even on my radar. And so when we make that shift, you'd be surprised, you're right? Like you'll be more willing to try certain things, or you'd be curious, or just things will just float in front of you. You're like, oh, I've never seen this before. And it was always there. So I just wanted to share that little nugget, that little. And look, at the end of the day, you don't owe the world your productivity. You owe yourself, your presence, your love, your desire to change from within. And when you finally open your editing software, or step back into whatever your craft is, or whatever it is that you used to do, it's not about recreating who you were. It's about meeting who you've become, who you are becoming. So be gentle with yourself there. You see, because that person, the one who's walked through the grief, the fire, and still chooses to create, carries something the old version never could. A kind of truth that only comes from having been cracked open from the heat. If you're watching this and you've been afraid that grief has taken over your creativity, it really hasn't. It's just been transforming you. The forest inside you is still there, homie. Still there. And somewhere in that quiet, beneath the ash on the forest floor, the seeds are already waiting to grow. So let them. Well, if this has been helpful at all, please share, like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe, why not? And if you're looking for help to build or rebuild your creativity so you can finish that damn project, the one that's been nagging at you for a while, then check out my website. I help restless, struggling, and emerging artists get past their blocks and create their art, their crafts, or whatever it is that they're aching to build. My clients have been getting back on track, let's say getting on YouTube, writing their books and proposals, recording their meditations for insight, and so many other projects. It's been wonderful to watch them grow. It's a blast to create, isn't it? Oh my God. Even me doing this. I was in the Dominican for a week, so I really miss doing this. So anyway, with that, this has been The Creative Alchemist. Create well, create often.